Hey guys, it's Cheekies from Cheekies and Chill. Cleaning today? Well, not exactly my idea of fun, but wait a second. Is Fabuloso involved? Because that's different. Cleaning with Fabuloso 2 times concentrated cleaner turns chores into fiestas. Fabuloso pairs twice the concentrated cleaning power with long-lasting lavender freshness. From showers to countertops, floors to doorknobs, it leaves your whole home smelling and feeling like a fresh oasis. You may never love cleaning, but you will love a home cleaned with Fabuloso. So make your home dramatically clean with Fabuloso. Pick some up today at your favorite store. Fabuloso 2 times concentrated formula provides 2 times more active ingredients versus non-concentrated Fabuloso Original. Use as directed.
Rise up! Rise up!
This is the Rise Up See Red podcast, all about the Arizona Cardinals and the NFL, featuring insider and outsider perspectives. Enjoy the best hour of Cardinals talk on the web. Now here are your hosts, Jess Root and Seth Cox.
Hello, Arizona Cardinals fans, and welcome to the latest edition of the Rise Up See Red podcast, the best hour of Cardinals talk on the web. I'm your host, Jess Root from CardsWire.com, the USA Today NFL Wire site that covers, of course, your Arizona Cardinals. With me for episode 699, just one short of 700, is Seth Cox from RevengeOfTheBirds.com, SB Nation's Arizona Cardinals site, and we are here to preview the Cardinals Week 3 matchup against the San Francisco 49ers. The first game, Seth, this is kind of like the first game. This is the first real test. Like, the Cardinals are supposed to be 2-0, and ultimately they won both their games. They beat the New Orleans Saints. They beat the Carolina Panthers. Both games, they never really were in doubt, but they made them interesting. And it ultimately came down to the last minute, but the Cardinals were never it never felt like they were not in control of the game. It's just that onside kick that the Panthers recovered made things super interesting. But this is the first time you're like, okay, now we get to see what the Cardinals are.
100%. And that's kind of, what we've been waiting for. And the question we've had is, have they been kind of holding back? Have they used the first two games as a pseudo preseason to get things going? We talked on Tuesday about how efficient the passing game has been. It's efficient in the sense that it's they're able to achieve what they want to achieve. It's low impact, though. I think that's the best way to put it, right? Because it's low volume. I was reading some stat today about the amount of like throws and things like that, and it's like the Cardinals have just such a low volume of throws this season. That's hard to even get a gauge on. And so, this week we assume, and obviously we'll never know, but we assume that they will get going, right? Like that they'll have to show kind of not everything. You don't show everything in game 3, but they'll show more of who they are and what we've expected. But that's assuming.
Right. What we're kind of hoping is like they are holding back, because it looks like what are they? Why are they holding back if that's the case?
Right. And so, but at the same time, there's always the chance that they come out and they play well and they just kind of beat up on San Francisco. I'm not saying this is going to happen, but that it could happen. And then you look at it and you go, okay, I guess we still don't know if they're good or not, because we'll see. So, it's just that interesting aspect of it. And I found the chart I was talking about. Hayden Winks, fantasy underdog or whatever. It's interesting. You look at the Cardinals and they're near the bottom of offensive plays per game, but they're this third slowest team in getting plays off. And so, like, that explains a lot about their offense, right? They're like, whatever, we're not in any hurry whatsoever. But we'll see what happens, eventually, and how they go this week against the other 2-0 team in the division.
And so let's take a look at the San Francisco 49ers in the first two games, because they've been a best. I think the 49ers are very much in the same category as the Cardinals. We don't know much about them for different reasons. For different reasons, because they had the game against the Seahawks, they had a game against the Saints, but they've got so many guys injured because they had Brock Purdy get hurt, they had George Kittle get hurt, Juwan Jennings has been banged up. They don't have Brandon Ayuk yet. They lost one of their offensive linemen in Ben Barch, and Mac Jones came in and played really well. But and so far through two games, in moving the ball hasn't been a real problem, and their defense has been, their defense against Seattle was really good. Spencer Rattler looked really good against them and threw three touchdown passes against them. I'm still not quite sure what to make of them, but I just feel like they are formidable, is what I'm feeling.
Yeah, and excuse me, my allergies are killing me. It's one of those situations that it seems like, and I'm sure you feel similar, but man, it sure seems like when you put Kyle Shanahan in a hole, he's like, all right, let me show you how I can really coach, right? Like that's all of a sudden when he becomes one of those top guys in the league. And so, I'm interested to see how this week goes, because Shanahan's been obviously a massive thorn in the side of the Cardinals for a long time. He doesn't own them in the same way like McVay owns them, right? But it seems to be one of those back and forth kind of rivalries, if you will, that there are times when the Cardinals have the Niners number and then the Niners have the Cardinals number. So, are we in that season of it's the Niners turn, or will we get this Cardinals team that, kind of owned San Francisco last year, even before they were bad, right? Like they were still the team to beat. And so we'll see how that all works out this week, because man, the weakness of the Niners last year was their defense, and then getting Robert Saleh back, really putting emphasis on that defense this year has really through two games, like you said, kind of started to pay dividends. And so we'll see what they have, because they look closer to the Super Bowl defensive units than they do the bad defense that was outgunned last year for the Niners.
And we look at so far, you had one game with Brock Purdy offensively. He turned the ball over twice, but that offense does pretty well with him. Mac Jones looked incredibly efficient. And like I saw someone, maybe it was just joking, but Mac Jones looks fantastic. Is that system just super easy for quarterbacks? I'd say that, except for because like Shanahan has made guys like Nick Mullins look good and Brian Bithard look decent, but it was only Jimmy Garoppolo and Brock Purdy that he's won with. So while other guys have looked good for a game or two, the only time he's won significantly was with Garoppolo, and then the early parts, like Brock Purdy, until last year.
Yeah, and I was talking to my buddy who's a huge Niners fan about this, and his philosophy or his belief has always been they shouldn't have paid Purdy, but they kind of had to, right? Like they didn't.
And the truth is, they believe in him. Like he's like, how can you not? Like it would be weird to do what he's done, and they're like, nah.
Correct.
Because what are you going to do instead?
But to your point, like what, whether it's Garoppolo, whether it's Purdy, like, are those guys benefactors of an elite system as opposed to elite quarterbacks that elevate the system, So those are the questions that come up and things of that nature. But yeah, I mean, in the first week, you talked about it, man. This is a group. This was a game where you saw maybe a little too much emphasis from Purdy or want to from Purdy, if you will. And then this week, they just looked better. They looked smoother. They looked, and again, level of competition, right? I mean, the Seahawks are clearly a superior team to the Saints. I don't think anybody's really going to question that. But the thing that's something to keep an eye on in this one specifically is can the Cardinals continue to be a good run defense? That's something I think that we all agree is been great to see the first couple of weeks. But again, you go, well, it's New Orleans and it's Carolina, and they got out to a big lead. And
well, we've always said for years, what is the best run defense is good offense,
right? And so
if you can get out to a lead, and we said back in 2021. Then the Cardinals, when they were humming offensively, they were built to dominate defensively. But if they were in close games and teams could run the ball, they were susceptible. We will see. If how that goes, because obviously they have a better group up front this year. Baron Browning's looked good. Zayden Collins is fantastic against the run. Josh Sweat is good against the run. You add Calais Campbell, who is really great at everything he does in his role. Dalvin Tomlinson, and then if you can get and Dante Stills, like if you saw that graphic out there on Twitter, that Dante Stills has been absolutely dominant against the run, and on the other side, Darius Robinson has not been dominant at anything.
I was going to say, did we crop that yet? Did anybody just crop that out? Yeah,
so. We just not show that quadrant because, yeah. And the truth is both Dante Stills and Calais Campbell show up really well in that run win rate and pass rush win rate on both of those. It's good to see. But Darius Robinson, which is like 0 and 0, he is
he is the antithesis of not good right now. And so,
which brings me to the question. We're talking about the 49ers. Are you a little worried that he is turning into an early LJ Collier?
Yeah, I mean that's the concern whenever stuff like this happens, right? And our buddy Johnny talked about it quite a bit with us personally, and then he's kind of vented about it. And there is definitely reason for concern, but it's also 8 games into the poor kid's career, right? Like we gotta take some of it with a grain of salt and understand rookie struggles. And I've lamented the fact that especially defensive lineman types, it's year 2 typically before they're really that good. And people might go, well, this is year 2. It's game 8, so it's like halfway through season 1 at most. And I know it's not a new system, but it's definitely a new set of players and teammates right around him, where now his role, and we don't know, right? But now his role might have changed to where it's like, hey, we don't need you to be this guy, so now go back to being this guy, and that just that causes issues for guys. And so I think it's very realistic to be concerned, but I think it's also fair to continue to be like, hey, let's see how this guy does, because it's still early. If we're just going off games played, it's still early going off snaps played, and now you're doing it in kind of with a newer team around you in a newer or different role. And we'll see how that kind of goes. But yeah, I think to not be would just be to want to bury your head in the sand. It's what's
like
interesting.
There's not even flashes yet. There's not. That's the thing. It's not even flashes.
Well, and that's what's so interesting to me, Jess, is the same group of fans that is ready to skewer Marvin Harrison Jr. or Kyler Murray or Drew Petzing, depending on your philosophical bent, is like, hey, don't worry, it's, Darius Robinson's fine. It's like, wait, what? Like, wait, so this doesn't matter, but that a guy that's producing at slightly above league average is bad, but a guy that's literally grading out at this moment as unequivocally the worst defensive lineman in the NFL is not something to be concerned about. So it's funny how people kind of pick and choose what matters to them. For me, I don't worry about any of it because I can turn the TV off and go about my day and not worry about it. And then it gives us fodder to write about. And
as we can say, is Darius Robinson a bust?
Yeah, and then
which, by the way, has been.
You won't see the engineer that slams the Nissan Rogue's door 13,920 times. Or the corrosive chamber that simulates 15 years of life in 5 months. Or the Rogue heat-baked for over 300 combined hours. What you will see is a vehicle that can take punch after punch and keep rolling. Nissan, #1 in new vehicle quality among mainstream brands by J.D. Power. We put it through the worst, so you get its best. For J.D. Power 2025 U.S. Initial Quality Study Award information, visit jdpower.com/awards. Awards based on 2025 model year. Newer models may be shown.
Other than really Eric Swan, every first-round defensive lineman the Cardinals have ever drafted has busted, at least since coming to Arizona, except for Eric Swan.
Yeah, and so we'll see if it continues or if he's in the right hands now between the new D-line coach whose name I'm not going to try to pronounce.
Debo, just call him Coach Debo. Yeah. That's what he goes by.
So Coach Debo, or and having greats like you said, like Calais, like Dalvin Tomlinson, those guys around him.
Yeah.
By the way, the other thing I think we should acknowledge, and we mentioned it, right? But LJ Collier, man, this guy, disappointing for him. I mean, obviously we know what kind of player he is. He's a nice back end rotational guy. Like, if he's your 5th or 6th D lineman, you're in a really, really good spot in the defensive line room. But this poor guy, I mean, just cannot stay healthy for the life of him. And the craziest,
that's been his whole career. That's been his whole career.
Right. And the craziest thing is it's always like something different. It's not just like, oh, here, another ankle, another knee, another, it's something different all the time. And you're just like, holy cow, this poor guy. But yeah, I mean, we're here to talk about the 49ers.
So getting back to the 49ers, so far, the guys who have produced, Ricky Pearsall had a big game. Juwan Jennings had a big game, had a solid game last game, but the offense is running 100% through Christian McCaffrey, who through 2 games has 50 touches, which leads the NFL. But he has not been efficient, as he's got no touchdowns through 2 games and a paltry 3.5 yards per carry thus far. And that it's going to, this offense will continue to go through him because he is their best offensive player. He does so much and has so much ability, and he's so versatile that you can do that. But I mean, that's one thing that we can look at and say, okay, McCaffrey's healthy, but he's not great. And so maybe this offense isn't as good. The fact of the matter, they scored only 17 points against the Seahawks. Now, granted, they turned the ball over twice and had nearly 400 yards of offense in that game, but they only scored 17 points, and they put up 26. But they've turned the ball over in both games. They turned the ball over twice. Purdy threw 2 interceptions, and they turned over the ball over once against the Saints as well. So it still goes through McCaffrey. They low-key they don't have the elite pass catching skills of a tight end, but Luke Farrell's not a bad tight end. Luke Farrell's like having Elijah Higgins, and so he's a fine player. He just isn't the elite player Kittle is. It would be the kind of the same case as if Trey McBride were out. You can still get production, and there's still a threat, but it's not quite the same. Interestingly enough, the 49ers have exactly 0 rushing touchdowns so far this year.
Yeah, and you look at it, I mean, you mentioned it, McCaffrey's still the guy, right? Just under 250 yards from scrimmage in his 2 games. You mentioned it, 50 touches already on the season. So, I mean, this dude he leads the league in touches. Shocking, right? On pace for over 2,100 yards from scrimmage. But like you said, it's more as a receiver at this point than it is a running back. I mean, again, 3.5 yards per carry. When you get 35 carries, the bulk numbers aren't going to look bad. But he has more receiving yards than rushing yards at this point now by 1. It's not like we're talking about huge, but some slight differences in the quarterbacks. You mentioned it. Purdy threw for 277, 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. Mac Jones threw for 279, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. Yet Mac Jones was sacked 3 times. Brock Purdy was only sacked once. Mac Jones had a sub 67% completion percentage. Brock Purdy was over 74%. So you're getting similar numbers, just going about it in different ways, right? Like Purdy's going to put the ball up in the air. He's going to trust his guys to go make plays, and he's going to throw some bad picks. Mac Jones is going to take a sack instead. And so those are things. You mentioned Pearsall had the big game 1, came back 56 yards. So I would say a good game 2. I mean, not a big game, but a good game 2. Jake Tongas is the guy that they're kind of, he got 4 catches for 31 yards in that second game. They still have Kyle Juszczyk, who's somehow a Cardinals killer even at 34. I'm gonna still worry about Juszczyk. But he only had 1 catch for 5 yards last game. He had 2 for 32 the game before, right? Like that's more what we expect from Juszczyk against the Cardinals. What's really interesting is that the rushing offense for the Niners is virtually the same, no matter if it's McCaffrey or Brian Robinson, which is not what you would expect from a Kyle Shanahan team in any way, shape, or form. So, that kind of begs the question: is it the O-line? Is it the scheme? Like, what's happening? And you look at it. Obviously, they still have maybe the elite of the elite in Trent Williams. You mentioned, Ben Bartch is out. The other thing is, I think the other guard is out. Spencer Buford, right? Like he's hurt.
He's hurt, but I think he might be on track for playing this. Maybe, I don't know.
Well, he did not practice today either, so he has not practiced all week. It doesn't mean anything, but he has not practiced. I mean, Juwan Jennings hasn't practiced all week. So we'll see, as those guys get in there. But yeah, I mean, it's just, you look at it, their run blocking has not been what you're accustomed to seeing for Kyle Shanahan coached teams. I mean, you have Trent Williams, who's still one of the premier, if not the premier tackle in the game. But after that, it's been kind of a hodgepodge of guys. Jake Brindle's the center. He had a pretty decent game against New Orleans. Kind of was semi-struggled against the Seahawks, right? We mentioned Bartch. I don't think I mean, are they going to miss him? I don't know. Colton McKivitz is kind of the same guy as he's always been. He's going to be better in pass protection than the run game. The guy that I've been interested in and kind of following, because obviously the Cardinals took a guard right before him and Isaiah Adams, but Dominic Pooney, after what can only be described as a nearly elite rookie season,
Yeah.
he's been terrible, like terrible in the run game.
Like we mentioned, that's kind of trending that way in the NFL right now.
Right. And so those things, are the ones that you look at and you go, okay. So we'll see, man. I mean, if they're starting Connor Colby, right? Because obviously you mentioned Barch and then Buford, right? They're normal guys that would play that guard position. That's a win for the Cardinals. That's a 7th round rookie trying to block Calais and Dalvin and maybe Darius. Maybe Darius gets on the board, right? And Dante Stills. Like that's a win for this group. So, that's something to watch as we head into this game, because at the crux of everything, the Niners do most of their best work off the running game. Now they're throwing the ball well, but they do most of their damage setting everything up through the running game. And so to see them come into the year and start the year, I mean, it's crazy to think, they're 22nd in yardage and 29th in yards per attempt rushing the ball. I mean, when we think of the Niners and we think of the Cardinals the last several years, we think, I don't want to say elite, because maybe that's no. I mean, we think elite rushing attacks, right? I mean, think about the Niners last year, Jess. Without Christian McCaffrey for most of the season, they still finished top 12 in rushing and 7th in yards per attempt.
It doesn't ever seem to matter, like whether it was Jordan Mason, whether it was Isaac Orendo or Patrick Tate. It's just like they just plug in a running back and he's going to get 100 yards for a game or two before he gets hurt, because they do flush through running backs at a crazy rate in San Francisco.
And then like you said, the year they lost to the Chiefs in the Super Bowl, this was a top 3 rushing attack in the NFL. And so you look at those things and this is just not the. When this game came out, it was kind of like, okay, we're going to watch 2 teams that are just dominant at running the ball come out and run the ball and see who can be better. And it's really like, well, I guess we're going to see a Mac Jones-led offense that's going to try to run the ball a lot, but probably not going to have any success. And then we're going to have a Kyler offense that is going to be slow, methodical. I mean, through 2 games, what we've seen, slow, methodical, boring. I mean, I've talked about it. This is a boring offense to watch. It's effective, but it's boring. And so,
yes.
And so that's kind of what you look at for all of this, is how that's going to go down. And I mentioned the matchups, right? Like, you look at this matchup historically, it's just kind of one of those things that
goes back and forth, man.
It does. And so, I really coming into this game, I don't see where the advantage is for either side of the ball.
Right. Coming up next on the Rise of Zero podcast, the best of Cardinals talk on the web. Let's move on to what we view are keys and what are the matchups that we're watching. That's coming up next on Rise Up Red.
You won't see the engineer that slams the Nissan Rogue's door 13,920 times, or the corrosive chamber that simulates 15 years of life in 5 months, or the Rogue heat-baked for over 300 combined hours. What you will see is a vehicle that can take punch after punch and keep rolling. Nissan, #1 in new vehicle quality among mainstream brands by J.D. Power. We put it through the worst, so you get its best. For J.D. Power 2025 U.S. Initial Quality Study Award information, visit jdpower.com/awards. Awards based on 2025 model year. Newer models may be shown.
We're back on the Rise of Zero podcast, best of our Cardinals talk of the web. Cardinals 49ers this weekend, 1:25 p.m. Arizona time on Fox. Keys to the game, I think come number 1, it's don't let Christian McCaffrey go crazy. He can have a 20 carry, he could have an 18 carry 60-yard game and you're happy, or an 18 carry, 75-yard game. It's when you start getting like, if you can keep him right at but right at 100 scrimmage yards, then you're feeling like, okay. But I think number one, you've got to make McCaffrey work, like take away McCaffrey explosives, basically. If you can just make him a workhorse, I think you've done half the work.
Well, and you mentioned it, right? Like, and what he's averaging right now is kind of ideal, right? If he's got 25 touches for 120, 125 yards, you're like, good freaking game against Christian McCaffrey. I mean, and people might go, well, he got 125 yards from scrimmage. It's like, if this dude has 18 carries for 65 yards and 7 catches, for 60 yards, guess what? That's a win. Like, that is under 10 yards per reception. That's under 4 yards per carry. Both of us would take that every day, of the week, especially on Sundays, right? Like, that is ideal, because that's 25 touches where this dude's not making his normal, I shouldn't say normal, what we've come to expect impact. Maybe this is his normal now, right? Like, maybe
that's the thing. Like, before last year, like, he had a special year, and it is unfair to say, oh, he's going to rush for 2,000 yards every single. No, but he has been dynamic. He hasn't been dynamic yet. And if they can avoid dynamic Christian McCaffrey, that will help. I know there's one thing that I'm super concerned about. It's the cornerback rotation. No Garrett Williams, no Will Johnson likely, and Max Melton is a big maybe. It's a big maybe right now. So what we're looking at is a starting lineup at cornerback of Denzel Burke, Keitrell Clark, and Elijah Jones, with Darren Hall coming off the bench as the backup nickel.
Just 3 of those names I have heard fans tell us for the last year plus that those guys deserve to make this roster and play. So I have no concern about anything. I mean, we've been told Elijah Jones, we've been told Keitrell, like, they deserve to. Like, what are we doing with Max Melton starting? Why are we concerned? I mean, they've told us forever that it's not a problem. So, I mean, realistically, you look at it, there's a couple things to it. One, first off, obviously, not having to face George Kittle is an equalizer.
Help.
It's an equalizer. And then what is truly Jawan Jennings' status? Do we know?
I mean, he played last week, so I don't know.
It's just so hard when, he literally has not practiced this week at all, and his diagnosis, they say, so Will Johnson groin, right? Like, his diagnosis is ankle/shoulder. So not ideal, right? Like, not ideal to have both.
Although I will say, we know that, especially if they will work to protect those cornerbacks, which means dink and dunk, lots of soft zone, and just don't get beat over the top. And they will try and do well against the run early. And so that, but I have a feeling this is going to be such a maddening game because they'll give up long drives. But
again,
but it is like it kind of match. You kind of have a match because you have a depleted receiving group with the 49ers against a depleted cornerback group for the Cardinals. And while the Niners put up 26 points against the Saints, I feel like this is going to be one more thing. If the Cardinals finally click on offense, this is going to be a blowout. But I get the feeling that the Cardinals are going to play a lot of ugly games this year, and this is going to be one of them. Defensively, we always have to watch Nick Bosa. He's got 15 tackles through 2 games, 2 sacks. They only have 4 sacks through 2 games, and one of them's on from a corner. So Upton Stout, they got 2 sacks from Bosa, but he's been game wrecky-ish. this year. They haven't got much from Michael Williams. He was banged up a little bit in the preseason. And they've got good corners. So far, Renardo Green's broken up 3 passes in 2 games. They don't have any interceptions, but I think I think we want to look at the Trey McBride, Fred Warner, however they're going to match up against that, because we have seen Trey McBride have good big games against the 49ers. So I guess if we're going to do matchup player for player, then it's going to be Trey McBride versus Fred Warner, right? That's the one where, like, that's the elite matchup for this game.
It really is, and you look at it, that's where everybody's going to be looking, and like we said, that's what makes this a little more palatable for Cardinals fans. You know, you've got right now, obviously, it will change, but right now, you're worried about Ricky Pearsall and Christian McCaffrey. If Juwan Jennings plays, it does stress you a little more defensively, but not having George Kittle is such a massive loss for the Niners. Just one of those things that it's really hard to overstate how important he is. I mean, he is a 6-time Pro Bowler. He's obviously a All-Pro, and quite frankly, he's really done well against the Cardinals in his career, and played at a high level against them. And so we'll see, what this comes of, but I don't think Max Melton's going to play.
I would be surprised. I think he's limited, as in he's doing light work.
Right. And so like you said, it's going to be there's 2 ways to go about it. One is you create pressure and you force Mac Jones to get the ball out quick, and then trust your defensive backs to tackle and make plays, or you rush 4, you drop 7, and you play those soft zones that we've seen the last couple of weeks, late in game situations that have allowed teams to methodically and lethargically move the ball down the field, where you're just like, get off the field, please.
Make a play, please.
And so
just dink and dunk and dink and duck. Yeah. And so, yeah, I guess if they can, and I think it's going to come to the turnovers matter, but they've got to make Mac Jones. They can't let Mac Jones look like a starting quarterback. Okay, no. You can't let Mac Jones look like a starting quarterback in this game.
Right, and that's such a key to this matchup, is that the Cardinals have to come out and they have to get on top of things early, like you said. If and I'm not saying it's going to happen. So, but if the Cardinals come out and they jump out to, like, let's say a 28-10 lead in the third quarter, I would expect, based on what we've seen through the first 2 weeks, that they're going to go, all right, nickel and dime us to death, run 7 minutes off the clock, and we'll just wait for you to make a mistake, or if you want to be patient, then we'll get the ball back and take 5-6 minutes off the clock in turn. Like you said, I don't know if we'll see a foot on the gas type of effort early, or maybe at all, from this group. I don't, because again, we just don't know what to expect fully. So we'll see how it goes. But Ricky Pearsall versus the corners, obviously a huge matchup. Christian McCaffrey versus the linebackers, always a huge matchup. But I think you can also get more safety help this time because you don't have George Kittle, right? And so those are some of the keys to the game, if you will. But they're keys to the game in the sense that on paper right now, that's how we're looking at them. Juwan Jennings comes back. It stresses things out more. And then the biggest thing that we've talked about is the porous run blocking from the Arizona Cardinals. I mean, just across the board. Paris has been borderline elite, probably top 5, maybe top 3 in terms of that left tackle position, pass blocking through the first 2 weeks. But all of them have kind of sucked against the run or in the run game. And you mentioned it, right? Nick Bosa's playing with his hair on fire this year. The 2 sacks is kind of expected. I mean, a 17 sack season would be really good, but nothing that, that Bosa hasn't had before. I mean, you're talking about a guy with 15 and a half and 18 and a half sacks in his career already in singular seasons. But this is a dude that, he's on pace for the most tackles for loss in his career. And he led the league in 2021 in tackles for loss. So that's what I'm kind of looking at is like, are the Cardinals going to be able to run the ball in this game with the way Bosa's playing against the run? I mean, that's a legitimate question. And then, of course, they have the elite of the elite linebacker in Fred Warner. And so while it's kind of a broader thing, it's the offensive line versus the 49ers elite players in Fred Warner and Nick Bosa in the run game. And you even mentioned it. Michael Williams has done a nice job in the run game in his short two game career. That to me is going to be what creates the win or loss for this game for the Arizona Cardinals.
With that, coming up next on the Rise of Zero podcast, Best Our Cardinals Talk on the Web. Let's move on to talk picks, predictions, and our favorite props for this game. That's coming up next on Rise of Zero.
You won't see the engineer that slams the Nissan Rogue's door 13,920 times, or the corrosive chamber that simulates 15 years of life in 5 months, or the Rogue heat-baked for over 300 combined hours. What you will see is a vehicle that can take punch after punch and keep rolling. Nissan, #1 in new vehicle quality among mainstream brands by J.D. Power. We put it through the worst, so you get its best. For J.D. Power 2025 U.S. Initial Quality Study Award information, visit jdpower.com/awards. Awards based on 2025 model year. Newer models may be shown.
We're back on the Rise of Zero podcast, Best Our Cardinals Talk on the Web. The last segment of the show where we make our picks, make our predictions, and talk about the prop bets. If there's any doubt, here's the thing. It doesn't look like there's any doubt about Juwan Jennings because BetMGM has all sorts of props for Jennings. And so maybe they just see him as hey, they're going to get him through the week. And then because they don't even have quarterback props for them because there's with Brock Purdy limited. And I don't believe for a second that Purdy's going to play, not for a second. And so I feel it's 100% going to be Mac Jones. The initial report about Purdy's injury was 2 to 5 weeks. This would be the second week. And there was even some talk that maybe he could be active for be the quarterback too. They're not going to do that. They're not going to do that. Shanahan mentioned I guess he's limited. So I guess there's a better chance than there's a chance that he'll play. And it wasn't said with any conviction.
Well, and it's just too early in the season. I mean, at the end of the day, it's just too early in the season. This isn't a desperation time. You're 2-0. You're tied for first place in the division. Yeah, this is basically a two-place game early in the season. But, let's be honest, Jess. Neither of these teams look like the class of the division right now. So you're thinking to yourself, like, look, we're not 100% anyways. The team that has through 2 weeks looked like the best team in the division that's not who we're lining up against this week. So, the Cardinals moving to 3-0, the Niners moving to 2-1 may not matter right now. And so that's kind of how you look at these things if you're the Niners, right? And you go, well, you probably don't want to risk a serious long-term injury for Brock Purdy. So let's get him through, like you said, let's get him through here. After this, think about this. It's Jacksonville at home. So you look at it and you go, okay, if we can be 3-1, and that's if you lose to the Cardinals, right? If we can be 3-1 and we get Purdy back for Thursday night against the Los Angeles Rams, who at this moment look like the best team in the division.
Oh my gosh, their defense has been so good.
Yeah. For like what?
Over the last half season.
Yeah, exactly. So and again, you might think like, okay, but you can't look. Okay, but listen, you look at the Cardinals, and the Cardinals go to 3-0, and we know that the Cardinals kind of meat of their schedules coming up, including this game, right? They got a winnable game after that, or 2 winnable games after that in Seattle, or against Seattle, and then against the Tennessee Titans. But then they go to Indy, and Indy looks decent to good, and then they host Green Bay. So there's a legitimate chance that they're 3-0, and then Thursday night Seattle games that's 1,000% every season a toss-up every season. And then you've got a Tennessee game where they're frisky, probably a win for Arizona, but they're a frisky team. And then you got 2 rough games for the Cardinals. So you could be like, okay, they're 3-0, and then right before the bye week they're 4-3. Maybe at best 5-2. Whereas the Niners, you get, like I said, you get Jacksonville next week. Then you have that Thursday night matchup against the Rams. That's the game that you look at and you go, okay, if he is 80%, 85%, we got to have him that game. We're 3-1, but this is the game that could matter. But they could also look at that and go, okay, we're 3-1. We're going to throw, and throw is a strong word, but we're gonna look at this game as a toss up because it gets us to 3-2, and then we have a 10-day break and we play Tampa. Now Tampa's good, don't get me wrong, but we play Tampa. Now we go from 3-2 to 4-2, and we feel good about where we're at in our schedule heading into that next stretch. So these are all the things that have to be taken into account. So, to me, just like you said, we're not going to get props until they announce the starters for the Niners. Obviously, like McCaffrey, like you said, McCaffrey's up there. They do have Jawan Jennings numbers up. They don't have Ricky Pearsall's up, which is interesting.
That's the weird one. That's a weird one. But how about
maybe somebody put in the wrong thing, right?
That would be funny. How about predictions? How do you see this game going down? The line is moved to 2.5 in favor of the Niners. It was 1.5. They were 1.5 point favorites when they opened the week, and now it's moved up to 2.5. Do you see a Cardinals win this week?
Man, it's just so tough with how unknown everything is for both sides. I'll say this. I prefer the Cardinals to be the underdog in this game. And I'm taking the under. I don't think this is going to be a shootout. I think this is going to be, like you said, a methodical, slow pace, slow action type of game. The money is on the Niners, but it's not crazy, right?
It's 56 on BetMGM. It's 56% of both money line and spread bets are on the 49ers. So it's not a large amount. It's not a large difference.
The crazier one to me is that 65% are on the over, because
I know.
I would not. I know. I just wouldn't play that right now.
I'm going to say that it's going to be a 23-20 game. I'm going to predict the Cardinals 23-20 win. It's going to be field goals, and that's going to lead to the prop that I've got there to lead, because you've got plus odds for both kickers for over 1.5 field goals. So 23-20 Cardinals win. Maybe it's a late field goal that does the difference, but the Cardinals cover and win. The total goes under. And then the first prop is what we always do, because we always do this. And we look at prayer props. The first thing we look at are the kickers. And you can get over 1.5 field goals for both Chad Ryland and Andy Pinero at plus 105. I think that's a go-to bet every single time.
Yeah, and I'm with you on that one. Again, FanDuel doesn't have any really player props at this point, but I do like a couple things. The first thing I do like is I like the Harrison Jr. over 49 receiving yard, or over 46.5 receiving yards. It's just been such a conversation at this point, right? Like,
yeah.
and then
will they finally do something?
right.
to finally do something. I honestly, Tyler's response, saying, "Hey, there's only one football, and there's 10 guys needing the ball. Sometimes you get a 10 targets, sometimes you get 3." That's the right answer. And then Marv, my favorite thing is like, why are we even talking about this? We're 2-0.
Yeah. Well, but to be fair, that's also the right response. The other one that I really like is McCaffrey's over 36.5.
Oh my gosh, yes.
He's averaging 62.5. I don't see any alt lines yet for
I've got that 75 plus, you get even money. I think that's an easy one. Go over 68.5 and then take it to 75 plus. I think that's an easy bet for him.
And so, those are interesting ones. McBride's the one I stay away from this week. I know he's averaging 70 yards a game. I know it. But Fred Warner is literally the best coverage linebacker in the NFL. Still is to this day.
True.
I'm not saying that he shouldn't have a good game. I'm just saying, like, there's a better chance of him not getting that high up, right?
Yeah, I like Kyler this week for his rushing yards. I know that Robert Saleh said they're going to have little mouse traps for him, which, that's funny because he's little. But I like over 28.5, and I'd even ladder that to 50 plus. Kyler's good for a big run against the 49ers, and especially since you can get at 50 plus, you get plus 375. So you would get the really big potential payout for that. Other than that, like I like for the receiving props, there's I don't have any actual receptions, and I like that a little bit more. If Jennings is there, the Jennings, careful, because you don't want to bet Jennings and have him not play. Although here's another one. I think this one is easy. James Conner. Oh, no, they don't have our receiving prop for Trey Benson, because that seems to be, because he's in that third down role.
Yeah,
he's gonna get lots of catches, but there's nothing there for him. Nothing else that really stands out. And maybe later in
it's just so early with what's happening here, right? Like this group with the unknown with Purdy, it just makes it really difficult to feel like you're gonna get those numbers. The one thing I do want to say is passing touchdowns. I know we talked about this being and I'm going to go 24-21 Niners. I don't know. It's a coin flip to me. It really is. But the Murray over 1.5 passing touchdowns, I do like that one as well. So, there's some interesting ones available right now. It's just not as, it's kind of paltry right now compared to, the other games where we know what's happening.
Yeah. And so I will have one more show this week with Seth's guy, Niners Nation's Kyle Posey will join me on the show, I believe, tomorrow. So we'll get one more show this week before the Cardinals and 49ers play. But with that, we'll go ahead and wrap up this edition of the Rise Up Sierra podcast, Mr. Cardinals Talk on the web, episode 699. And hopefully we can talk about a 3-0 team, or we'll have more grievances to air this coming week. That's Seth Cox. I'm Jess Root. Thanks for listening. As always, we'll be back again soon.
You won't see the engineer that slams the Nissan Rogue's door 13,920 times. Or the corrosive chamber that simulates 15 years of life in 5 months. Or the Rogue heat-baked for over 300 combined hours. What you will see is a vehicle that can take punch after punch and keep rolling. Nissan, #1 in new vehicle quality among mainstream brands by J.D. Power. We put it through the worst, so you get its best. For J.D. Power 2025 U.S. Initial Quality Study Award information, visit jdpower.com/awards. Awards based on 2025 model year. Newer models may be shown.
Thanks for listening to the latest edition of the Rise Up, See Red podcast. Listen to previous episodes and subscribe to the show on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher Radio, Audioboom, or many other podcast platforms so shows are delivered directly to your mobile device. Please give the show a 5-star rating and always support the sponsors who support the show. We'll be back soon for the best hour of Cardinals talk on the web. Rise up, Red Sea, be red, see red, and of course, rise up, see red.